Today is the Ways and Means Committee's first hearing outside of Washington since President Trump and congressional Republicans delivered a massive tax cut to working men and women in the One Big Beautiful Bill. With their no vote on the One Big Beautiful Bill, unfortunately, every single Democrat in the U.S. Congress voted against cutting taxes to tips, against cutting taxes on overtime, against cutting taxes on Social Security. Instead, Democrats voted to raise your taxes, slash the child tax credit in half for 40 million families, and slash the standard deduction in half. Instead, it's a slap in the face to the hardworking men and women across this country and in Nevada. It's no surprise. This is the same party that spent 4 years under Joe Biden making life more expensive.
I have to say it's a shame that you're here to highlight a bill that will be so disastrous for so many Nevadans and our long-term future. Las Vegas is actually ground zero for the damage that Trump's economy is doing to workers and to families and to small businesses. From rising housing costs to falling hotel occupancy, from energy projects on pause to an impending health care cliff, the reality in Nevada tells a very different story than the one Republicans are attempting to sell. Trump-Vance administration took office. Las Vegas room rates have dropped more than 16%. We haven't seen a single month of growth in hotel occupancy since February. Mr. Chairman, this bill is selling a lie that my constituents are too savvy to buy. And that's why I want to make sure that today we are uplifting the truth. The truth is, this is not a public hearing. There aren't hundreds of people sitting here in a field hearing. We could have done this at a public location to allow public input, but instead we're here for a photo op. Well, welcome to the great city of Las Vegas. We're glad to have you, and we're going to make sure that the truth of this big ugly bill gets told to our constituents.
Here in Las Vegas, 21% of workers make their living on tips. This city leads the nation in the share of its workers who earn tips. It only makes sense that it is also the birthplace of one of President Trump's signature tax relief ideas: no tax on tips. Waitresses, bartenders, DoorDash employees, bellhops, service workers, and other tipped employees will get a $1,300 tax cut compared to what they pay today. No tax on tips will translate to over $230 million back into the pockets of tipped workers in just the Las Vegas metro area. $230 million just in Las Vegas from that one tax provision. That's money that will be spent at local small businesses, restaurants, and stores, helping both tipped workers better their lives while simultaneously growing the Vegas economy.
On July 4th, while Americans were celebrating our independence, President Trump, flanked by congressional Republicans, signed away our economic and health freedom with the most expensive bill in U.S. history, the Big Ugly Law, all to benefit billionaires. And I refuse to stay silent about the damage that this bill will cause, especially to my constituents. The Big Ugly Law delivers a cruel blow to working families, and make no mistake, Nevada will be among the hardest hit. Despite what you'll hear today from my colleagues across the aisle, this Big Ugly Law isn't a tax cut for working families. It's a $4 trillion budget-busting giveaway to the ultra-wealthy. The top 0.1% are walking away with an average tax break of $309,000, while working families making less than $50,000 will get a mere 68 cents per day. And that's before the impact from all of the cuts that are being imposed by this bill. Republicans had an opportunity to work in a bipartisan way, to extend tax cuts for working families in a fashion that would have gotten it done without giving handouts to billionaires. They chose not to. They voted no. Instead, they've slashed nearly $1 trillion from Medicaid, put coverage for over 110,000 Nevadans at risk, cut up to $11 billion from our state's healthcare system. This will all mean impacts to our rural hospitals in places like Battle Mountain and Winnemucca that will be forced to close their doors. And as coverage disappears, healthcare cost will rise and care will suffer. But don't just take my word for it. The CEO of University Medical Center, Nevada's only public hospital, said that they're reviewing expenses line by line, scrutinizing staffing and supplies, and even utilities to prepare for what's coming as a result of this big, ugly law. The big, ugly law jeopardizes over 760,000 clean energy jobs nationally and over 8,300 jobs here in Nevada by gutting incentives from the Inflation Reduction Act. It raises costs for families by stripping away support for energy-efficient home upgrades. And it hits the backbone of our local economy, hospitality and tourism. Again, don't just take my word for it. Derek Stevens, the owner of Circa, the Golden Gate, and the D, said that the big, ugly law, quote, will impact jobs, visitation, tourism. And he's right.
My name is Nicole Cannizzaro, and I proudly serve as the Majority Leader for the Nevada State Senate. I appreciate the opportunity to speak today on 3 critically important issues to Nevadans: healthcare access and affordability, energy, and food security. When Nevada became the first state led by a Republican governor to expand Medicaid in 2012, our uninsured rate was second highest in the nation, an astronomical 22%. Today, Nevada's uninsured rate is at an all-time low of 8%. H.R. 1's provisions targeting Medicaid will erase much of this progress and lead to tens of thousands of Nevadans losing coverage. According to the Kaiser Family Foundation, nearly 800,000 Nevadans, almost 1 in 4, rely on Medicaid. Analysis from the Nevada Medicaid suggests that nearly 100,000 Nevadans will lose coverage due to more stringent eligibility verification requirements, paperwork barriers, and reduced funding, despite more than 2/3 of enrollees being employed. Another 100,000 Nevadans are covered through the Silver State Health Exchange. But under H.R. 1, some populations would experience a 573% increase in their premium payments. Across all income brackets, premiums are likely to increase by roughly 75% next year, which will lead to more Nevadans foregoing coverage. This means fewer people getting preventative care, more uncompensated emergency room visits, and long-term costs shifted to state and local health systems. Those costs, to be clear, do not disappear. They will get passed on in the form of higher premiums for everyone else. Under H.R. 1's changes to the provider tax structure, Nevada would lose an average of $160 million in revenue per year over the next 5 years. The effect on our healthcare infrastructure will be devastating and swift. Already, Nevada hospitals struggle to attract and retain qualified personnel and will have fewer doctors and fewer services. When provider tax cuts are combined with Medicaid eligibility tightening and reduced federal match, our rural hospitals may reduce services as well, cut critical units like long-term care for seniors or labor and delivery services, forcing residents to travel hundreds of miles for emergency or specialist care. Next, let's talk about energy costs. In Nevada, where summer highs routinely exceed 110 degrees, air conditioning isn't a luxury, it is a necessity. Our state has become a national leader in the renewable space, with Nevada holding vast potential for solar and geothermal power. The solar industry alone created more than 8,000 good-paying jobs across more than 100 companies. H.R. 1 discourages the development of cost-effective electricity generation. And according to Energy Innovation, Nevada families are now projected to experience an annual increase of $300 to their energy bills over the next 5 years. This won't just hurt the pocketbooks of Nevada families, it will damage our economy. So let's move on to food security. The Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program is one of the most effective tools we have to fight food insecurity. In Nevada, over 500,000 individuals, including 1 in 5 children, rely on SNAP to make ends meet. These are not people who are gaming the system. They are working families, single mothers, caregivers, and people living with disabilities. And for every dollar in SNAP benefits issued, between $1.50 and $1.70 is then returned to our local economy. Instead, H.R. 1 imposes stricter eligibility rules that will cost Nevada taxpayers $20 million per year while penalizing states for error rates that are often driven by administrative complexity and staffing shortages, not fraud. While Nevada's error rate currently falls below that threshold, that was not the case as recently as 2023. In effect, this means that thousands of eligible Nevadans could lose access to food assistance while at the same time costs go up for Nevada taxpayers. Finally, I'll conclude with a brief note about no tax on tips. The reality of this provision is that the tax exemption is temporary, while tax cuts for billionaires and large corporations in this bill are permanent. That is not tax fairness, it's tax theater. And this temporary benefit will only help Nevada's tipped workers if we continue to have tourists to tip them. That's no guarantee, especially amidst a year-over-year decline in visitation from both domestic and international tourists. This is a bill that puts the interests of the wealthiest Americans first. It locks in permanent advantages for billionaires and corporations, it strips away state flexibility and burdens our agencies, and it does not promote economic growth, and it will ultimately raise costs across the board for working and middle-class families. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak today.
I couldn't help also but noticing your expression during some of the opening comments, particularly Mr. Horsford, some of the Democrats' comments. Could you tell me why you were, what you were feeling and thinking during those comments?
So being a true Nevadan, born and raised here, I've got the Ms. Titus and Mr. Horsford and Ms. Cazarazo comments about the decline of the Vegas economy. I've lived in this town long enough to know why the Vegas economy is declining. It has nothing to do with our government or the administration. I've seen the prices. Vegas used to be a cheap place to visit, but we're not a cheap place to visit anymore. You know, these corporations have taken our town over. You know, you got to pay to valet. Valet was free. Parking was free. A bottle of water's $15. You know, the entertainment, the taxes. You know, they say that, you know, the big, beautiful bill that's benefiting billionaires. Who owns the hotels? I don't own the hotel. I'm assuming it's a billionaire. So maybe with a billionaire getting a tax credit that owns this hotel, he cannot charge $25 to valet, $50 to park here, or a $15 bottle of water.
I appreciate it. I want to get to one or two other questions, but the fact of the matter is that hardworking American families are seeing a tax cut in this bill, and billionaires are seeing their taxes increase slightly. That's the fact. What the Democrats are saying is just absolutely untrue. But what I want to lay out here is the stark difference, what you're hearing from both sides here. It is clear that Republicans are the family of are supporting hardworking American families, and Democrats, in opposing this bill, have voted against every one of those provisions that would have done that. And in fact, they're standing for bigger government. They're standing for more taxes from people's pockets. They're standing for more government expenditures. They're standing for people staying on Medicaid with no requirement for anything they need to do to stay on. I do want to also test Leader Canizaro, your thoughts on this bill. I picked up that you were opposed to the bill. You did, though, say that if tips were made permanent, you would feel perhaps differently. Are you saying, if no tax on tips, are you saying you would support no tax on tips if it were made permanent?
Thank you very much for the question, Congressman. I first would note that there are pieces of this bill that do help working
So
families.
you would support no tax on tips?
One of which would be a true no tax on tips.
How do you feel about every Democrat voting against the no tax on tips that was in this bill?
What is in this bill is not only a temporary 2-year provision for no tax on tips.
So no tax on
but
tips
it
is fine
not,
if permanent, but not good if temporary? Well, by the way, it could have been permanent if we didn't have to do it through budget reconciliation.
Mr. Smucker, will you yield?
No,
Okay.
I will not. We will not have had to do it through budget reconciliation if Democrats had joined us on this. I want to test, if I may.
But on that,
I want to,
think
if I
one
may,
other
I want to test one other thing. Do you think that there should be a set of qualifications for individuals to access Medicaid? Do you
In
think
Nevada,
there should be a?
In Nevada, 2/3 of our Medicaid population is employed. They are working Nevadans. They
Yes.
have jobs.
Which is
they
a great,
are working hard.
So do you think, just go with me, answer this, do you think Medicaid should be contingent on a set of qualifications?
I think that people who are looking for Medicaid coverage, because that is the only place they can get health care.
So I'm not hearing,
have,
I'm not hearing that you think there should be a set of qualifications.
there are qualifications for
And
individuals
do you think there should be?
who
Do you
are on
think-
Medicaid.
Okay, so
And
you
I
think,
be- and
so the question I
believe-
want to know is, if you believe there should be a set of qualifications, one of the objections you have to the bill is that there would be more stringent adherence to those qualifications, ensuring that people comply with those qualifications. I want to say that Dr. Oz, head of CMS, just came to the committee yesterday and talked about 2.8 million individuals, 2.8 million at a cost of $14 billion per year, who were accessing either Medicaid in 2 different states or Medicaid and Obamacare marketplace subsidies at the same time. Do you think there should be more stringent requirements to ensure that doesn't happen and thus save taxpayer dollars?
What this bill does is put work requirements that have been proven to be ineffective and have resulted in nothing but additional red tape
the other
that
thing
prevent
that-
people from accessing health
The
care.
other thing that Dr. Oz said, which I thought was really good, and that is if you came home at the end of the day and there was someone sitting on your sofa that did nothing for 6 hours, sat and watched TV for 6 hours, wouldn't you require them to get up and do their part?
Again-
do you think about that all in terms of work requirements?
2/3 of Nevadans who are on Medicaid are currently employed. They have
What-
jobs. They are working
What
hard.
about the ones who aren't but could be?
We are talking about children. We are talking about
No, we're not.
seniors. We are talking about people with
We're not
with
talking
disabilities.
about children, we're not talking about seniors, and we're not talking about mothers with children, we're not talking about individuals with disability. That is patently false. They are excluded from these work requirements. What we're talking about is individuals who are working age, who have no reason they could not participate in the workforce, but are choosing not to do so. That is what we're talking about. What Democrats are saying about this bill is patently false, and I'm way over my time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Moore.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. And I just want to thank all of the witnesses for their very compelling testimony. I listened very carefully. I read your testimony. And if I don't ask you a question directly, it's because, unlike the Republicans, I only have 5 minutes. I just want to start by responding to something that my colleague, Representative Adrian Smith, said, that, somehow implying that Democrats were not telling you the truth and that they, in fact, were giving you all the facts. So let's just start with a little fact-checking here. First of all, the whole no tax on tips thing was not, Mr. Rona, not Donald Trump's idea. First time I ever heard of this was from Stephen Horsford, representative from Las Vegas. So that's the one thing I would like to correct. Mr. Robinson, I am so happy to hear that you think that the Tax Cut and Jobs Act provided the resources. I mean, we cut taxes down to 21%, which is why I can't figure out why Mr. Smucker's saying that corporations are paying more. I mean, we went from, 36% down to 21%. We've made that permanent. You said that it gave corporations an opportunity to raise wages for workers, to provide more opportunities for them, and I know that you provide health care, which is very important for your workers, but the Congressional Budget Office says that the 2017 tax cuts, there were virtually zero corporations that actually provided increases in wages to workers. Instead, they provided CEO compensation, and they provided shareholders with more money. So, Mr. Byington, you can forget about your idea of them lowering the costs and stopping that stuff from happening. You can forget about that. That ain't gonna happen, sir.
Mr. Byington, what high school did you graduate from?
I went to Western, and
right.
my family all graduated from Western High School in the late
Awesome.
60s.
So I'm a graduate of Clark High School, class of 91, go Chargers. That's when you know that you're a native Nevadan, because we ask you what high school you go to, and if you're at one of the original 9, then you've been here a long time. I want to ask Senator Cannizzaro, particularly because 30% of Southern Nevada's jobs are in hospitality. They generate over $80 billion of economic activity. Unfortunately, these blanket tariffs have alienated 2 of our most important trading partners, Canada and Mexico, and the facts for themselves, they speak for themselves. It's down 8.7% just among international travel alone. Yes or no, have you heard from local business owners who are suffering due to the downturn in our tourism economy?
Thank you for the question,
very quickly.
Congressman. Yes.
Okay. So that's the problem, is that this bill will only make it worse. Republicans gutted in this bill Brand USA, the nation's official tourism marketing organization, by 80%. That's in this bill. Since 2013, Brand USA has attracted 10.3 million visitors and generated over $75 billion towards tourism. And for every dollar that it spends, it returns $20 in direct benefits. Senator Cannizzaro, with our state facing a projected $350 million shortfall, if tourism declines and worsens, will that threaten essential services for residents in Nevada? Yes or no?
Yes, Congressman, absolutely.
Mr. Rona, I am so glad to have a hospitality worker's perspective at this table. Our working class has been hit hard for far too long, and I agree with you, and I don't care what party you belong to. Our hospitality workers are why we are the entertainment capital of the world. So thank you for being part of that. I am concerned because this bill doesn't go far enough when it comes to no tax on tips. My tax on tips bill, the TIPS Act, would not only provide permanent tax relief without a cap, but it also closes loopholes to ensure that only those who are receiving the benefit, the hardworking hospitality workers, receive them, not others who could try to game the system. In Nevada alone, over 110,000 people could also lose their health care. Mr. Rona, don't you agree that temporary tax relief on tips will only go so far if workers are also losing health care and other supports for work, like housing?
I can't speak intelligently on healthcare costs.
Okay.
All I have is my own my issues on that.
If
All I know is a
work-
good
if
idea is a
tip
good
work-
idea, and
right.
I would challenge you to extend these temporary cuts in the future to people like me,
And to
'cause
make
we
them
could use it.
permanent.
And I thank you. If you were originally the one with the idea, that's a great
You know
idea.
what? I'm not. You know whose the idea is? It's the workers. It's never been about one person. And this is the thing. I don't care about Donald Trump or any one person getting credit. It's the workers who said, give us more of our hard work, let us keep more of our hard working money, but also let us raise the wage of tip workers. Because in America, outside of Nevada and in other states, they get paid as little as $2.13 an hour. That is not a livable wage, no matter how you cut it. Ms. Simmons, are you familiar with how these food banks are funded? And I want to thank you for the work that you do with Project Dash, because it's great work that's helping about 1,000 meals be delivered to homebound seniors. Are you familiar with how the food banks are funded? Because some of those meals that you deliver come from organizations like 3 Square?
I'm not really up on how they are funded.
Okay.
I do know that they do, they ask for donations.
Absolutely. It's
and-
largely from federal government and private philanthropy. 3 Square does a phenomenal job. Thank you for delivering those meals. And my heart goes out to you and to your husband. I ask for his continued blessings.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I want to ask unanimous consent to submit for the record several recent articles about the effect of the Big Ugly Bill here in Nevada. First, from KTNV Las Vegas. What is the effect on the Las Vegas economy as tourism keeps declining? Here's what we found. 2, Nevada Independent. 1 in 6 Nevadans get food stamps. Many may lose benefits under Trump's big, beautiful bill. 3, Nevada Independent. GOP bill, biggest health care shakeup since Obamacare. Here's what it means in Nevada. Nevada Independent. Vegas isn't fun anymore if you're on a budget. Las Vegas Review-Journal. How will the big, beautiful bill impact healthcare in Nevada? Las Vegas Review-Journal. Las Vegas unemployment rate rises again amid tourism slump, the Trump slump. Las Vegas Sun. Nevada hospitals brace for impact of Trump's budget bill. Las Vegas Sun. Race is on in Nevada to install solar panels before end of tax credit. And number 9, Las Vegas Sun, Trump's budget bill stacks the odds against gamblers and threatens Nevada. 2 more. NBC News. The biggest political fight over Trump's mega bill are converging in Nevada. And just out this morning, Axios focus groups, Nevada swing voters turning on Trump. And they turn to no tax on tips and the fact that it's not permanent, it's capped, and that it's not really going to give the relief. These are what Nevadans are talking about. And had we had a public hearing, these are what you would have heard from the majority of the people that I represent, that Dina Titus represents, that Susie Lee represents, and that Mark Amodei too. And so my only point, as I close, Mr. Chairman, is
Without objection, that's entered into the record.
when we get back to Washington after our August district work period, I would like to work with you and members of the Republican Party to reward work, to protect economic opportunity, and to do it in a bipartisan manner. I yield back.
Perfect. Mr. Bean.